Good evening, Paris. It's so lovely to see you today. Happy Monday.
Oh my gosh, happy Monday. Thank you so much for having me. I was thinking about it today. I feel so like grateful to be here and that you reached out. So like really, so thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I have fun getting ready for these conversations. I think a lot about the person and what we're going to be talking about and the work. And you gave me a really fun excuse to like dress kind of girly and wear bright colors. Like I'm trying to like channel that Cape Cod experience. And one day I'll be doing that, wearing one of your dresses. I hope. But it's been really fun to get ready for this kind of like girly evening together. I also, get to bug out on people's Instagrams and just like kind of get to know them a little bit like a detective, but in a fun, lighthearted way. And I noticed that so oysters are one of your five main food groups, right? This is
1000%.
for you. You're wearing them on your dress. And so I want to not miss the opportunity to learn a little bit about that too before we go into all the creative stuff. I know that there's like East Coast versus West Coast oysters, right? Do you have preferences? Do you have differences? How can I be a little bit cooler the next time I'm at like a boat kind of adjacent party scenario thing?
So this is I I'm a big East Coast girl, so I'm a big East Coast oyster fan. So nothing against West Coast oysters. I just know what I know. Growing up on the Cape, I grew up like eating well-fleet oysters, and so like those, near and dear to my heart. Like just like for me, just like the best. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I was thinking about it. Why I don't know why I'm so fascinated with an oyster, but there's just something. It's almost like when you eat an oyster, it's like you get a little gift. Do you know what I mean? You're like opening it up, and it's a little bit of work to open, and you finally open it, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And you have a little bit of like a little bit of sauce, a little bit of maybe lemon, lime. Oh my gosh, it's just I think it's like the experience. I think I like experiential eating, living, et cetera, et cetera. So that oyster is just like, ooh.
Yes, I think it evokes probably like special memories and just it really sets the stage of this is a really intentional, lovely evening with
Yes.
people that are social, and it makes me want to go have an oyster or whatever. I should have prepared in that way. I should have had some oysters here. We could have, chatted over oysters. It would have been a whole
I know now that you say it, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I were a better guest, I would have sent you oysters. So next time,
We're
next
getting
time.
all the ideas for the next iteration of this conversation. But without building up too much anticipation, for anyone who doesn't know you, this is Paris, the creator of the inspiration, the magical, wonderful force behind With Love by Bug. And I don't know exactly how our paths got to cross, but I'm so glad that they did. And now to get to understand a little bit more behind the scenes of all the joy that you spread in what you do. So again, thank you. And I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Well, the fact that you said joy that I spread, I mean, that's like my ultimate goal is just to like spread like just joy. You know what I mean? And so the fact you said that, like, thank you. Like, that means a lot.
Oh yes, it's so abundantly clear just in everything that you do. So I want to hear a little bit more about how we got to this wonderful iteration of Paris, right? So you said a little bit about where you grew up, but I want to hear a little bit more about what your childhood was like and how creativity played into it and all of that.
Totally. So I was fortunate enough to grow up on the Cape, on Cape Cod, which I remember I went to college and people were like, oh, people live there. And I'm like, yeah, we do. Small population, but we're there. And it just was, I mean, I look back on it, I just feel so fortunate. It was like, just like such an idyllic place to grow up because you grow up by the water and just like you have like the land, you have the sea, you have like this crazy tourist season. And it's just beautiful. It literally, I know I'm biased, but just the Cape's such a beautiful place to grow up. And yeah, so just like I just felt so, so you have all these like beautiful sceneries are all just like kind of in the back of your brain growing up. And then for me personally, I've always loved being creative. I'm gonna say being crafty. However, I did make a note of this. So we'll go back to this later, but I feel like with the word crafty, like I used to like, I sew, I would knit. I had all the klutz books, I'd make like the little like bracelets, that you like the little bracelets. I was a camp counselor and I was like arts and crafts director. Like I've always loved arts and crafts. It's just always been like very much love to read. I'm not so sporty, but I am crafty.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but just something about it. I just love to use my hands, just love just to dig in there,
Yeah, so fun to let like kind of our inner kind of being like lead that, right? Like it didn't sound like you were forced into any of these things, just kind of naturally emerged that, oh, Paris is crafty and creative and like not gonna maybe play soccer, but definitely gonna make some fun friendship bracelets for the crew, right?
No, exactly. And actually, that's always what I was doing. I was so lucky that like my parents really, they would they expose me to a lot of different things, and whatever stuck, they let stick. I remember actually at one point I had headgear, and I remember when I had headgear, I was walking around the house with headgear, and I had like made these like teeny tiny hangers out of wire, and I had like hung them on the headgear. I was like, oh, hi mom. And my mom was like, hey Paris. And thinking back on that, as like maybe my mom, I've been like, what is my girl doing? My mom was like, hey sweetie, how you doing? Just was so accepting of this, like, like, like
I love that. I can totally picture it. So happy.
It's just so ridiculous. And she just was like, God bless her. My mom was like, oh yeah, it's great. Keep doing what you're doing, girl.
Oh my gosh, that confidence building comes from home, right? That matters.
Yes, exactly.
That's special. And so, I think it's so beautiful in your story how you get to, it sounds like kind of lead what you're growing in, what you're dabbling in. At the same time, though, I think there's always maybe the world trying to latch on to what you're doing and be like, that's your path now, or this is your path. And I remember getting to know you, you explained how maybe people were suggesting like maybe you're going to go to art school or whatever. So how did this come up in your academic life as a teenager going into college? Like, let's go there.
No, totally. I mean, it's a great question, great segue. So I also always loved to read. I was always been very bookish, like I said, not sporty, much more bookish. And because of that, I was like did well in school. Like, I really loved English, history, excelled in those subjects. And so when you excel those subjects, and I'm also the oldest of like 3 girls, and kind of a type A personality, you just kind of like, I never thought that being an artist would be a career. I was never told that could be a career. So basically it's like, oh yeah, you're good at school, like then obviously you'll go to a good school, and obviously you'll get a degree, and you'll do something, and like, you'll do something that, like you'll be a teacher, you'll be a doctor, doing all those different like very like defined career paths.
Right.
And so I like, I did well, middle school, high school, and to what you had mentioned, I actually wrote my college entrance exam. I don't know if that's weird that I remember that, but I do. One of my college essays was about like this jewelry making class I was taking in high school. God bless Mr. Craven. And it was like the most difficult thing I'd ever done, because usually with writing and with creativity, like with writing and stuff like that, I could just like whip out a paper, I could figure it out, I could read the book. But when you're like really forging metal, it's like the metal doesn't lie. It's like really the skills you bring to that. It just was so difficult. But it really just forced me to like use my brain a different way. But I love the challenge. And so I wrote my college entrance paper about that. And I guess that went well. And so Mr. Craven, I was just the person who said like, person, you should consider going to art school. I was like, oh, I could never. Like, it was very much like that was nowhere on my radar. And it's too bad, and you look and think how your life could be different. But I don't like to, I think that I'm here where I am. And this is where I'm supposed to be, and so there are many different paths you could take, but I'm so happy that I'm here. So I don't want to like focus on like the past and what could or could have been, but I feel so grateful and blessed just to be right here, right now. But that being said, it was very much like, you academics go.
Yes, it's giving, I don't know why I'm getting this image in my head of like, the stovetop, right? And I don't cook like at all, but I imagine like sometimes people have multiple pots going, and like you set one up for success and you like let it chill and like ruminate or something, probably, if you're making multiple things at once, which is really that person deserves mega props in my book. But it sounds like you had this fire, you like lit it, you like let it kind of simmer, and you played with maybe a different part of your brain for a few years.
No, exactly. And no, that's exactly it. And like I went to BC, and I just did, I was a sociology sociology minor, international studies major with a women's studies focus. I got like really into that. I mean, I like love my women's studies courses like at BC, and just like, and I love BC. It was such a great fit. I had a great time. Like on the side, I did special events with the student government. So I definitely was like using my creativity. My creativity has always been there, but in just very different ways. And so it's interesting to look back, like, oh yeah, like that's where that popped up. That's where that popped up, you know?
It's fun to see. I think you can learn skills from one place and so readily apply them to the other if you are creative and like willing to think about those connections. And it sounds like that was really fruitful for you. So you went from BC to the nonprofit world, right? And then eventually to get your MBA, and that's bringing us closer to the present. Like, what happened in there?
Yeah. So yeah, I worked in the nonprofit field in a few different development offices. Then a few years, Sorry, it's always so funny to think back about this. But yeah, so I worked in nonprofits. I was doing special events for nonprofits. Then actually my current boss, he was a trustee at my old firm. And so he basically found me and was like, want to come work for me? And I said yes. And so now I've been working in finance the past 6.5 years. And it's been great because working in finance, it was, with events, it's not 9 to 5, events can be over the weekend, events can be anytime. I mean, there's not a set schedule. And so one of the great things about working in my current environment is that literally it's like 9 to 5, and it's allowed me to like get my MBA part-time at BC, which was great, which is something that like I've always loved to learn. And so that was really something I wanted to do for me. It was like, I really like the MBA, like definitely helped like my career and helped help my current job. But I was doing it because like, I was like, I just want to do this, and I think that's when I excel, is when I do something for me, which is with Love by Blog. It's all for me, and that's why I think it's so fun, because I can just infuse myself into it. So
I love that. I feel like that's a really powerful theme in your life, starting with the creativity when you were little, right? Just leading with that natural kind of curiosity. And also, I think, maybe finding different balances at different times. So it sounds like when you were in the nonprofit world, there was still a lot of like creativity in what you were doing. And then as you got further and further into like that proper business role with the structured 9 to 5, like maybe that's when with Love by Bug starts to become part of your story, right? So the pandemic you had mentioned in past, like, was an important time for like refueling those creative juices, right? And there was some inspiration from different designers. Like, bring us to that point in time now, if you will.
No, of course. And what I'll say too is that when I started working in finance, because I wasn't doing events anymore for my job, I started just like throwing parties. I started throwing the parties I wanted to go to. So that was kind of like pre with Love by Bug. I just like, I love to throw a good party. I love to throw a good theme party. And so like, that's where like I put all my creativity into these fun parties with like fun invites. And that's also something where I still do love events. I mean, events have a very special place in my heart. And so that was kind of, so basically it was like the events, the creativity. And then, like you said, the pandemic kind of comes up and you can't host events. You can't, everything is literally like you're in your apartment. It's, you don't know if the world's ending. Right. And it really was the first time ever that I was forced just to sit like with myself, and you're like, all these different things that you're told define you, you're told like your job, your career, your title, all the things you're told to find, you like actually don't. Like when you're sitting in your apartment and you're afraid to leave, and it really was a great, it was a great time for me to just kind of like reevaluate like who I am, like what makes me tick, like who is Paris, like Paris without any, without any box, any context. And so then I just started really tapping like back into like my creative roots, because you have nothing else to do. And so I started like everyone else started cooking more. And then I just started cooking more. And then I had this sewing machine I'd been gifted by my mom. Oh my gosh, so many years ago. I actually hadn't used it. And based on the sewing machine, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's play. And so and so because yeah, so basically I just started just like playing with the sewing machine. So I would like look online, see everything's like, oh my gosh, like, so yeah, there was a few different brands that I saw, and like I loved like fur sweaters. I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I could make that. And so I like went to Joann's, got some fabric, and like, I made a sweater. And I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't that hard. And just like, and then I started making like little basic shift dresses. I was like, oh, like let's make a shift dress. And and kind of once you start, it's so liberating when you realize that like you can, like when you can provide for yourself. You're like, oh my gosh, like I can like make this dress and I can wear it, I can like it. It's like, I don't know. And in an economy where we're always like, oh, Amazon, I'll get on Amazon, I'll buy it, I like it. To be able to create something with your hands and then like wear it, use it, love it, it's just like, it's mind blowing. It's so satisfying,
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is so special that I think you have that energy to like persevere with it and figure it out. Like, have there ever been any crafts that you've shown up to that have been a little bit like more frustrating or difficult? Like, do you run into moments in there where it's not so joyful? Like, I can't imagine figuring it out the way that you do. I think that's amazing. And maybe there's ways that you've powered through moments of like, what the heck? How do you shift dress? How do you?
I know. No, I know. So I like to try to set myself up to not say to win, but so for example, with like the shift dresses, I was like, I had a dress in my closet, and I'm like, oh, I like this dress. So basically I use it as a template, so I like just to like do little things like that, but there have been a few, and so I also, when I look at something, I kind of can tell whether or not like, if it's like out of my reach, because many things are, but yeah, so there have been, I'm thinking about this, there have been a dress or two that I've tried to make, or a few different things where like there was like some, just I forget what it's called. So it's just like special ribbing, and I was trying to do it, and you're just like, and sometimes it doesn't work. And I think that's another great thing, is that if it doesn't work, that's okay. We just move on. You know what I mean? Fabric is plentiful. Fabric is not expensive. And just like, that's something I like to bring also to my work, is that, like I try to bring joy to everything I do. And if I'm not enjoying it, then like, stop it. Let's not do it. Like if it's different, ease is so important. And I think if things aren't easy or just too difficult, drop it. Like, let's like, that's just probably a little sign to like detour,
Yes, I think that's so wise. Like, make it something that you don't feel bad if you quit it, right? Like, make it, within a financial limit that feels comfortable, like you were saying. Or I feel like there's like business stuff, don't throw good money after bad money, right? Like, if you're not having fun with it, stop going down that path. Life's too short.
No, that's exactly it. And I think that sometimes, I think a lot of it though also is mindset, because you'll like I'll have this fabric, oh my God, it's so beautiful, I'm afraid to use it. I'm like, no, Paris, like it is okay. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You know what I mean? And just being okay with making mistakes. And I think that's something that we live in a perfectionist society that really, a lot of things we see are, just like these perfect screenshots. And so just telling yourself like, no, it's okay. Like, everyone just do it. And, it's okay. Like, it's okay to mess up. It's okay. And like, it's not that big of a deal,
Yes. I think that's so good and so helpful for like reframing and all of that. And so we heard a little bit about, your approach of making what you can and buying otherwise, but I want to hear more a little bit about, what are the types of projects that you are drawn to? Is it certain qualities about them? Is it a certain style, or more about what you like to make, what it looks like, what it is?
Yeah. It really comes down to for example, if I'm looking on Instagram, because I think that Instagram has pros and cons, but as like a tool just to see like what inspires you, I love it. So if I'm on Instagram and I see something, I'm like, like, I love that table mat, I'm gonna try to make it. Like, I think I make things that I just feel like, oh my gosh, I need to make that. It's like a very much like a visceral reaction, and like that's like, I'm like, I have to make it. I think I said this to you before, but like my policy, like what I create versus what I buy, is that like I look at something and I'm like, oh, like, can I make it? like, yes, let's make it. If I can't make it, I'll be okay, then I'll buy it. So it's very much just like I look at something, everything is just, you know, like, can I make it? Can I buy it? Like, what makes more sense, like from like a cost perspective, and then we go for it. And sometimes too, I'll also just, because I like I don't know, I like the challenge of it. I'll buy something just kind of want to figure out how to make it, you know? So it's like always like a little bit of a, you know, like I don't know, my brain's always.
Yes. No, it's like the Paris version of those people who take computers apart, right, just to rebuild them or something. But like more colorful and fun.
Yes, exactly. And not as intense, you know, you're just like,
It's intense in its own right, but in a really hopefully joyful, you know, way.
yes. More fun.
One of the ways that you've described your work is, or yourself, is as a lover of color and whimsy. And I think, you know, the name With Love by Bug is in its own right whimsical and lovely. And I wondered if you could dive a little bit into the story behind, you know, actually even, and also the pivot from like the parties that you were hosting for fun to like, I'm going to make this like an organization or like a thing with its own name.
Yeah. Great question. So 2019, like I think it's actually September 1st, 2019. I had wanted to adopt a dog for a while, and it was really difficult, like being a single woman without a yard. I have all the love in the world to give, but like it was very difficult to find like someone who would let me adopt a dog. But yeah, September 1st, I basically went to Buddy Dog Society in Sudbury. And I was like, I'm adopting a dog today. And so I like found Bug, full name Bugsby. We call him Bug for short. He also goes by Cutie. He's actually on the couch over there. And I adopted him, and it was literally like the best thing I've ever done. I mean, it was difficult. I mean, as with any dog, any new being, it was, you know, difficult and definitely a transition period. But like literally, if you ask me, like hands down, the best thing like I've ever done was like adopt my little guy Bugsby. And he's just like my little companion. And then soon after that, I met my fiance Brian. And so thinking like, so like last year, okay, so we're like having parties, and then we can't have parties due to COVID, and I'm just getting more creative. And so kind of like how that tied into like With Love by Bug starting is that, so last summer, like the nap dress was like very popular. Snap dress, and it's like such a flattering dress. Of course it's popular because literally just like, you know, it's just like, you know, it's tied up on top, but it's also scrunchy, you know, so anyone can fit in it, and then it just like billows out, which is like a perfect silhouette. Like I love like the nap dress style, like beautiful. Yes. And so I saw that and I was like, I think I can make this. So like I looked up a few different YouTube things, found out like how to scrunch the fabric. I'm like, I made myself a dress. And then one of my friends was like, oh my God, like I love that. Can you make you one? And I was like, okay. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, sure. So I just was, so all of a sudden I ended up being like in like a baby like dressmaking business. And I was like, I guess I should publicize this. And so my friend, I was talking with her, and so we were debating like of cute whimsical names, and just, you know, we're like, I think it was her who was just like, oh yeah, like how about like With Love by Bug? I think that different other things of like Bug, love Bug were taken, but the With Love by Bug wasn't. So that's how we kind of came up on the name. And that's the thing, is that like I think that the great thing too about like dogs is that, I mean, they are any animal, such a source of joy. They live in the present. They don't get, you know, they live in the present. They don't get focused in the past or the future. And they're just, you give them a treat, you bring them to the park, and they're so full of joy. I mean, I just think that those are such great pillars, and just, you know, just such great, I don't know, things to live by, more things to live by, you know?
Yes, they are definitely joy inducing in their own right, and such a difference making. There's so many, I think, pandemic love stories of dogs and humans, you know, uniting and what is it, conquering the world together, dealing with each day of uncertainty, focused in the present. So we're grateful for Bug. I'm grateful for Bug. So sweet. And I love that. And I also love that the name is so expansive, right? It's not Dresses by Bug and Paris, right? Like it's very much lets you be nimble or fluid with what you're wanting to do in that moment, and continuing to let that natural desire lead versus a label, which I think is so useful and so good. And it kind of brings us back to, you mentioned earlier when you're getting stressed or bogged down in something, like being willing to just drop it and pivot and whatever. Your creative practices are pretty dynamic, I would say. Like there's dressmaking, but there's also the watercolors and other things. And maybe you'll tell us more of like what all is part of that. But I'd love to hear more of how those things fit together, or why it's helpful for you that you have these different pots going.
Yeah, no, and I think that the pot analogy is such a great one. I well, so I was last summer, like I said, I became a dressmaker. Like I actually my machine broke and I went and I saw trying to get it fixed, and like the woman trying to fix it, she was like, "Oh, how many dresses do you make in a week?" And I was like, "Oh, like 5 to 10." She's like, "Oh," "Oh, you're actually a seamstress." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm not." Cause I think I've told you, I have no formal training in fashion design. Everything I do, I have like learned, I've picked up, I took one fashion design class in high school. So this is all very like, I am no like professional by any means. Like I like, things like maybe a little, I'm just going with it, And so that was kind of like this, like, oh my gosh, like a little bit of an oh my gosh moment, because I was realizing I was getting so bogged down with like the producing versus just like the creating and like the living. It got a little bit stressful. So I took some time in the fall just try to like thinking of how I could expand, and just kind of not, just making dresses. Like me being a seamstress was just stressful, and I'm not a seamstress. Like I just prefer to like design, make something for me, we don't need to stress. Like life is stressful enough. We don't need to stress about like dresses,
Right.
like, come on. So then that kind of just led into, I was like, oh, how else could be creative? So I just started, beading, or I think that beading or cross stitching, or like making cocktail napkins. Basically, I would see things that I liked and just would post them as just a way just to show like different things I was doing. And I was just like so appreciative when, my followers and people like, following me, like they stuck around, and they, and just people, I feel so fortunate with my community that everyone's been so that's allowed me just to like, just to say blossom and just kind of show the different creative facets. And I just feel really blessed because of that. So because of that, I started thinking, okay, what are some other ways that I can be creative? And so one of them was painting, and I've always liked to doodle, like to paint. And I was like, let's try this. And so I like in my brain, I know the artwork that I like. And so I was like, well, let's just start painting the artwork that I like. And that's kind of like how like my watercolors came up. And so, I think that in the beginning, I think I had like, okay, must create dresses. And now I have more of this view of like you can create whatever you want. You know what I mean? You can create a watercolor, you can create a dress, you can create a cocktail napkin, you can create something you've never created before. But it's the fact of like not getting stuck in like a box, because I mean, like, do I know what I don't know. Do I know what I really want to do? Like, no. And I think and that's great, and just, just being open to whatever comes through, whatever comes next. I think that's almost more fun instead of, just being a very, a very specific niche. Like for me, I don't know. I just enjoy just like creating stuff. And I'm so lucky that people, I don't know, like seeing it.
It makes a whole like community. Like I said, the first time we spoke, I felt like, we were BFFs because I get to see what you're working on each day and feel like part of the celebration of it, and like just want to see you get to keep growing and doing cool stuff. And I think it takes a lot to put yourself out there in that way, but it's really perpetuating that joy and courage to do the things. As you were describing your ability to kind of pivot from one thing to the other, it also makes me curious about, I've talked maybe in other realms of creative practice about, you have a goal and you choose your medium based on that goal, right? So do you want to send a certain message? Like, are you going to use it text, or are you going to use visual or whatever? But for you, it sounds like maybe it might be the opposite, where like you have a desire to sew, and so you're going to do that. Like, is the making leading and the idea following, and I don't even know if that makes sense, but like, are you seeing an oyster and saying, I want to capture this moment? Am I going to capture this moment best with a painting or with a dress or with a piece of jewelry? Or are you just entering the day and you're like, I really need to sew something? Like, am I going to, what's coming first, the chicken or the egg?
No, that is a great question. And maybe pause for a moment. I think I'm more of the latter, where I'll be like, I get an idea in my head and I'm obsessed with it. So for example, like the oyster dress that I made, I got a ticket to like the EBO event, and I was like, I'm going to design my own fabric. I'm going to make my own dress. Like, generally, just like, it's very much just like, and I am like, I must do it, And so I think that recently I've been more a bit of a sewing kick, just because I've also been sewing things for my wedding. So like I have like one of the dresses, like at the rehearsal, like I sewed, that's a part of this birthday. I sewed my dress, I made my veil. You know what I mean? So I think that right now, my brain right now is more into just like sewing, because we're just like real hyped up about it. So I haven't touched my paints in a while. And so I think that when I come back from Greece, I'm sure I'll be itching to paint, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't touched you in a while. So it's very much, yes, like I see it, like I get an idea in my head and I'm like, I must do this. Like, I just won't stop until I do it, which is pros and cons,
But we just follow that lead. Yeah, no, I love it.
No, I think that's so important. I think it's so important just to follow the leads, follow the hints that come down from wherever they're coming. And you really just like follow, I guess it kind of goes into follow your passions, which sounds cliche, but that's like when you take what's exciting you and you share it, like that's the most powerful,
Yes, it's so special. And I will pull up some of your work so we can continue this conversation with them as like our kind of launching off point. So I grouped them by different sorts of like types of creativity
Sure.
for the purposes of today. So the first part is these the paintings that you do.
Sure.
I put a bunch of them here. So I'm wondering if any of them just stand out to you that you want to like share a little bit more about first. And maybe you could also talk about like what you're using to paint on, to paint with, if that's important to you, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so I mostly I use all watercolors and gouache. And yeah, I use all watercolors and gouache. I don't even know the brands of paint brushes I use. And for the most part, I like to paint them small. I paint on like a 5x7, or sometimes I'll do 8x10. For the most part, they're just kind of this like little size like this. So they're just, it's a little guy. And so yeah, looking at these, so like the image of the woman on the couch, that is just my cool girl. She is just a cool girl. She is, I don't know, I think I get a lot of my inspiration off of Pinterest. I get some stuff off Instagram, but a lot of my watercolor images, I love Pinterest. And I usually will work off an image. And best I work off an image and kind of go from there. And so my cool girl, she also is kind of a bit of a Kate Spade vibe in my mind. Right, and I mean, Kate Spade's amazing. I love that vibe. I love all of that. And so I just think that she's my cool girl on the couch. Her shoes are on, sunglasses in the house. I just love it. So like, that's my cool girl. And then below her, we have just a doodle basically of the Queen of England with her pups. I mean, because the Queen of England, she is a fashion icon in her own right. I mean, her dogs they probably already have their own book. There's just something just so like whimsical of just her with her dogs. Because you see all these different images, like she loves her dogs, like more than anything. And we just get these little glimpses. It's amazing. Like there's another image I was thinking about painting, but I didn't. Was literally her like going onto her like private plane, and like her butler like with the dogs, who's carrying the dogs, and you just like see like the love she has for these animals, and it's heartwarming and it's amazing, and I love it. And then up top we have an oyster, because love oysters.
Love this one.
Okay, good. It's so funny because I had posted this, and I mean, looking at likes is never a good idea, but I love this as well. And we just like added that whimsy, just like with like the Chanel, the Chanel earring in the middle with a pearl. Yes. I think there are so many. It's probably something I'll work on later too, but I think there's just so much fun and whimsy that you can play with luxury brands, logos. Like there's just a whole, and like these brands have so much weight behind them, and people get so passionate about them. I think that like playing with these different themes is just like it's fun, you know?
Yes, I think it's such an era for that right now too, right? Like, brands, but also making them more fun, like embracing that kind of streetwear ethic. Like, but this does it in a way that I think is so unique and so cool. Like just that is like cool girl type of art, I feel.
Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate that because I think that I have that hanging somewhere up here, and I just, yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh, me too. But I mean, they're all so special. And then I'll make sure we don't skip over the final one in the corner before.
Yeah, so that is more to my Cape Cod roots. That's actually a little cottage that is in Nantucket, I believe. And just that image was definitely someone had taken a similar photo on Instagram. And just yeah, the photo, I mean, was beautiful. And it's like this beautiful cottage that's like rose covered and just so lush. And as something too that I would think more about trying to focus maybe on more like works in the future, more Cape Cod themes, because people do seem to like it's almost hard when something's so close to you that it can be almost hard to paint. Like for example, the oyster, I was very nervous because I love oysters so much. And I'm like, how do I represent this well? You know? And so I think it's one of these with the Cape where it's almost like how like being like, oh my gosh, let's paint the Cape. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of pressure. You know, so a place that I love and so near and dear, I almost would be more critical of myself, which is not what we're going for. But I would like to focus some more on Cape themes going forward.
Yes, that's so fun. So when you've painted these ones, I don't know if you remember like, where you were, what was going on, for the cool girl one, for instance, like, were you feeling like a cool girl that day? Were you embracing that vibe, or was it like a totally opposite experience and doing this kind of brought out a different sort of joy or edginess that you were wanting to like channel? Like, is it that intentional? Is it more subconscious? Like, where were you at, when these were happening?
Yeah. Let's see, when I was painting her, I think I was starting to do I love to paint women. I love to paint women hats, love to paint women sunglasses. I mean, I think that, yeah, I just love painting women. And so I was going back to my roots a bit where I felt like I hadn't really focused on women for a while in my artwork. And I was just like, you know what, like, I don't think I was feeling a cool world, but I was just like, I just feel like we need some of this right now, you know?
Yes.
I think this, there's been a lot going on right now with women and women's rights. And so I think that I was really like, we need to, just like, I think I just need to focus on women in the way that I know how to. And I actually, I do have some artwork around that I keep looking around. I'm like, oh my artwork that I haven't posted, but I have to, I don't have to post, but I will post just more women centric. Cause that's the thing is that like yes, women positive centric.
Yes, it's such a simple thing to know women and celebrate women and all of that.
Exactly.
It's really special. Yeah.
Yes. No, because there's so much to celebrate for women and those identifying as women. I mean, yes, I just love it. I love it.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah. And so I think that with the Queen of England, that might have been a little bit before her birthday or maybe her celebration. And the other two, yeah, I think that, well, for me, painting is so, I don't know, it's like such a release. It's like so calming. I really enjoy it. Whereas other forms take more, like I have to think more. Painting, I really take as almost to be just like like let a load off,
Yes. You mentioned, before we clicked record today, your house is like a creative space, right? That you let it be focused on those like creative energies and all of that stuff. So are you painting all of these, in the same corner of your home? Do you have a routine for getting into the mindset of painting? But I feel like maybe also on your Instagram, I saw that you were painting somewhere outside recently, or, where is Paris usually painting, or where does she wish she was painting?
No, that's a great question. It's funny because we have so Brian's office is in like the main room, and we have like a second bedroom. That's technically like my creative space, my office. And Brian's been trying to get me to get like a desk for a very long time, and I just haven't gotten one because it's just in my old apartment, I had this like beautiful, like it basically was like a one bed, but just like this beautiful, like big kitchen counter that's like made of granite. And so I could like just like it's a big space, which is what I need. And you just could throw up like, I could put my sewing machine up there, my serger up there, doesn't move. I could put all my paints up there, just a big space. And so I've been reticent in this new apartment to get a desk because like if I want a desk, I want a big desk, and the room is a small room. So I'm so being here, I've been working for the most part just like at our basically at our island. And I also think though, I say that I want my own desk in my own room, but that might be a lie, because even growing up, so I'm Greek, my family's Greek, and like the kitchen has always been a very important part of the house. And a lot of our, conversations, goings on happen like in the kitchen or right at the table right by the kitchen. And so even growing up, I think about how like I did do quite a bit of homework in my bedroom, but I also did quite a bit of homework just like at the kitchen table. And the kitchen table, like that's like where my mom would sew. That's like where we'd have dinner. That's where we would like have all these conversations. So there's something maybe for me to dig into later is the fact of like, there's definitely something with like the kitchen and that familiarity and that comfort that I think I still find, because I'm still working at the kitchen counter. It's like, how many years later,
Yes.
So.
Oh, I love that. I don't know where I was reading recently, but the things that or maybe it was a podcast, but like the things that we find fun as adults do usually come from like just nostalgic experiences of our childhood. So it's making sense. The kitchen is going to maybe continue to be an important spot for you. I love that though. That's so sweet. Okay. So now we'll like kind of pivot to the other side, the more technical, creative work that you do with the dressmaking. I can't wait to hear more about any and all of what's going on here.
Yeah. So obviously, we have not to harp on my oyster dress, we have the oyster dress, which is
and
like my
oyster pizza. Like I want to be there.
No, like I said, my like friend Alexis throws these amazing East Boston oyster events, and they're always in a secret location. With the secret location, lots of oysters, lots of like oysters, caviar, fun things. And so, as we know, I like love a good event. And I also like, I love the themed event. So like, and so her events are all amazing. Can't say enough high things about her. So that's just basically, that's like, that photo is like me of pure joy. And I think that, I just like, the dresses that I make because like I want to wear them, and when I wear them, they just bring out like the best side in me. It's just totally evident when I wear any of them. I just just like it totally like lifts you up, brightens the mood. I just like I it's so weird. I look at myself like, oh my god, I'm smiling now. It's so weird.
No, it's so wonderful though. I totally get what you mean. I mean, if a outfit does not make us feel like our truest, self, it's not worth it. Like we should just go home and change.
No, 1,000%. And 1,000%. I think that at least for me, like my outfit is very important. And I love dresses. And so that's basically what you're seeing all here. And so right next to me is this little, I had made these little pinafores for my like soon to be nieces for Christmas. And they were a little bit finicky, but and I used the pattern for these, which is doesn't happen very often, but they were literally adorable. Like I made them and they were rifled paper crow fabric. And and that's I think one of the things that I do like when I make a dress, particularly for little girls. I just like, if something's cute, I just can't stand it. I get so excited. And these, like, let me tell you, were very cute. They were great.
They're so adorable. I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, they were great. And then these bottom images are just more photos of dresses that, so I didn't make the dress in the middle. I actually got that dress from a seller on Etsy. Like we talked about, I'm a lover of color, and it is literally the brightest pink dress you can get, but it's amazing. And it's so funny because I wear this around and people be like, well, stop me. Like, oh my God, I love your dress. And you just can see how like, sometimes in Boston, or different cities, I assume, like we kind of get stuck into different, what colors are appropriate. But I think the past summer, I feel like people are going bright, and I love it. You know, it's like, why? Like, if you want to wear a pink dress, wear it. You know, like, love it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I am glad that we are in this age of getting more colorful. Even as New Yorkers, when we're a harder bunch, even I'd argue than the Bostonians. Loving like the black ensemble with the different shades of black.
Yes.
So I'm seeing more color too, and it's very encouraging. And then the final image here is like that Hill House style kind of
yes
dress,
right? So these are all the dresses, yes, that I was making last year. And like I said, like I literally, like, it was great making them. Like I had, like, it was great. And just, it was so when someone like trusts you to make a dress for them, it's almost just like a personal experience, because is it like, if I make a dress, if I make art, it's just like you're literally like, I mean, these dresses would take me at least 6 hours to make. And so you're really putting like your time, your effort, your soul. And for me, like, making a dress is so personal that it was like giving a piece of my heart to someone in a dress. And I loved it, but also too, is like kind of hard when your heart keeps going out with dresses. You know, it's a little bit, sometimes I have to work on my boundaries. So that's a little bit of that. But yes, these were like all just, they're going out to like beautiful homes. And I mean, I love the idea of like a woman putting a dress on and feeling like her best self. Like, the fact, helping wearing a dress literally makes someone feel like this much better. My job's done. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I could ever ask for.
It makes such a difference to feel good in those things, and that's such a cool like work that you're doing in bringing that about for another fellow woman. I watched actually last night, it was so timely, I watched Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I don't know if you've heard this yet. I hadn't known it was a thing. It's like early on Prime, but it was just out in theaters, and it's this woman who cleans homes for a living in the 50s in London, but she sees a Dior gown and she decides like, this is what I need, even if I have nowhere to wear it, because when I put it on, I'm gonna feel just like amazing. And she like, it's just her whole journey to Paris and how she changes the house of Dior in the process. And I just feel like it's gonna really resonate.
No, I'm gonna have to watch that tonight. That sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh, it's the coziest, sweetest. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
I'm so glad that you went there in describing that like intimacy of making something for someone else. Like, I wonder if you could share more of what that process is like. I mean, I'm sure there's like a measurement thing, and that's just like spatially intimate. You know, how is that process? Is it one meeting and then the dress is made? Is it always people that you know very well, or have you done ones where you knew less well? Like, has there been differences in that experience from person to person?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So when I was making these, I think the difficult part with the dresses that we're talking about is that I didn't use a pattern. Like, I just did this all by hand. So we're not using a pattern. There's just a lot of room for I'm not gonna say error, but there's just a lot of room for mistakes. And so basically I would ask people for their bust measurement, and for their height, their bust measurement, and sometimes their waist, I want to say. Oh, and then also I'd ask them for their strap measurement. And so I would literally just sit there and just like do various test fabrics. And because like each fabric you see here, like each fabric has like a different like elasticity. And so I have like change settings on my machine, like for each different type, and each one's a little bit different. So like it was like I said, basically it's like a math challenge. Although I didn't really use math, I just kind of, I don't know, just kind of felt it out, you know? So that part wasn't exactly as invasive. It was more just for me, I think I've always considered if I make a dress, I consider it to be a piece of art, like it is a piece of art. And so when people would have like negative, happened very rarely, but when I received negative feedback about my dress, it was as though, I mean, you're literally just like, you're affecting my inner artist. And that's not something that is normal for like, if you usually buy a dress, or even people like, oh, you know, it's mass produced, or even if it isn't, there's a pattern, but it's really just like, it just, for me, like dresses and fashion is just so personal that if I'm making something, it's almost like you've been someone's cooking. That's the best analogy I have. It's kind of like, this is what I made you. You're going to eat it. You're going to like it. If you don't like it, well, this is what you have, you know? And so
Right.
it's
Oh,
just, so after that, like, so I had like an experience. So after that, I was kind of like, for me, like actually sitting there, because think about like when you're sitting there, it's almost like, I'm not gonna say it's like writing a book, but when you're working on something for 6 hours, if it's a piece of traditional art, a painting, people are, they like it, they'll buy it. If they don't, they won't. And so there's no like, people can't, I'm not gonna say insult you, but like, like they like it or not. But if the dress, you know what I mean? If something's a little bit off, people think that you can change it. It's like, no, I can't change it. Like this is the dress. And so maybe just about my cultural background, but I think that I learned from this experience that for me, yeah, dressmaking is just very personal. There's so much love goes into all of them, and in some ways, it's almost like too personal to share. And it's something that, like, for example, a dress that I make, a dress I design, and someone else makes it, that's fine, because there's another pattern that else is involved. But if something's coming from like my hands, it's coming from like my heart, and it's like a very, yeah,
yeah.
it's very personal,
Yeah, that's so cool the way that you describe it though. And it is so like vulnerable, I think, and intimate. And um it
Yeah.
sounds like you had a lot of, valuable learnings from it though, in terms of like, where am I going to put up those boundaries? And sometimes it's going to be that I draw the thing and someone else makes it, or it's going to be for my wedding and I'm going to make it with my hands and I'm going to remember every inch of it while I walk down this aisle, and it's going to give me goosebumps, every time I think about it. And like, it's going to be perfect because it's for this occasion.
Yes.
That's for me, it's going to be celebrated. Like, that's so cool. And it makes me, I like to think that I am like intentional in like the way I start my day, and like, picking my outfit and stuff and celebrating it. But now I even want to more so like cherish, like, this thing was created by somebody, and like, it is so, what were they thinking about when they made it? And like, did it prick their finger? Like, that's just like so cool to get to think about all those layers and all those hands that touch the things that make our lives go round.
I know. And like, just like you're saying, it's so true that we take for granted. Yeah. Like just like the care that goes into, most things that we have, or that like, a package we receive, or an item that we wear, or the food that we eat. So yeah, really trying just to kind of get down more to like, yeah, just like, yeah, I think, yeah, getting down to the root of it. And I think just being, at least for me, I know that just trying to just be, I don't want to say, be more grateful, but that's coming up to me right now. Just like being more grateful in general. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's a tie-in, but
I think that is a perfect tie-in. And more grateful, and also maybe more connected. Like, I think,
yes,
so many people, like myself included, sometimes we can just feel lonely. But like, when you think
yes.
about all those people who are making your life happen, like, you're so not alone, right? Like, there is
No,
some lovely person who made the thing that you're wearing, right? Or brought the
eating.
your door, exactly, like all the cool things. So that's fun to think about, like ruminate whenever we're like alone with our thoughts, like, we're not alone,
Yeah,
there's so much going on.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
And
love,
you're not.
right. So this all makes me want to come to a party created by Paris. I want to hear so much about these.
Love it. Well, yeah, we oh my God. I next time I have one, I will let you know.
I will come, I will be there, I will dress for the theme. I take themes very seriously. I'll be a good guest.
That's the attitude. I love it. I love it.
Oh my gosh. So first, the napkins. Was that for a party you hosted, or was it for what was?
No, so I had this real so this fabric that I use for like I made a few dresses out of it. I love this fabric. And I'm trying to think, I don't even remember why. I don't really remember why, but sometimes I don't know where I get these ideas. But I literally was like, yes, I have to make cocktail napkins to say party of Paris. I have no idea why, but I did. And there you go. I don't remember at all why I did this, but I just remember like I did it, and it's like so fun.
It's so fun. I think there's something very curated or special about embroidered things.
Yes.
I watched this documentary once about the Carlisle Hotel in Manhattan, and I've not stayed there to know if it's true, but what I remember from the documentary was that they would embroider the names of the guests on the pillowcases.
No.
Yeah. So like, I mean, literally that would to me be worth the price difference if I could, if I could do it.
That's I'm gonna make a note about that. I had no idea about that.
Yeah. So like, can you imagine you in your future, home or whatever, have a guest over and like you embroider their name on you get a cheap pillowcase, right? But just embroider their name on it. Like you feel like 10 million bucks. Like that just so
10
much
million
dignity.
bucks.
And like, that was the word they used to describe it that really stuck with me. Like just having like dignity about your day and about the intention that you go about these things with, like that, party with Paris napkin. I'm like, this is such a special, event or thing or whatever's happening with this napkin. I want to be there because it is so thoughtful.
Yeah, no, my gosh, thank you. Oh my gosh, I love to hear that. And I just think too, like along those lines is that in my home, I try, well, I feel like it's taken me a while, but I do, when I buy something for the home, I really try to have something that is like, oh my gosh, I love that. And then you really feel that like, oh, like I need this. I need this, but you're like, oh, this just is so personal and maybe a little funky, but it's great. And those same things, I feel like these cocktail napkins, it just adds this like level of personalization and just making it like sometimes one might consider a monotonous or just like not a throwaway item, but I was like, oh, the cocktail napkin. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's a cocktail napkin. So bringing your attention to these small details that are often overlooked, but like why shouldn't your cocktail napkins be fun? You know what I mean? Like, or even too, like one of my things, I love fun straws. And so I don't know if you can tell this, like the straw has little flowers on it. And I just think that there's these little things that you're like, doesn't make that big of a deal, but it does. If you're using a fun straw, you're gonna like your drink more. If you're, if you're using fun cocktail napkins, it just brings a little bit more fun into the day, which I think days can be long, days can be stressful, they can be hard. So if you can find little ways that are cost effective and just make you feel better, whatever that is, I think that's great.
Yes, you're speaking my love language. I totally agree. And I see that it's a kind of a segue to the pumpkins, right? And like that little moment of joy and creativity. So
Yes.
What was happening there? What's the story?
I was on Instagram and a woman had posted, I think that she may have posted some type of decoupage pumpkins. And I was like, oh, these are amazing. Love blue and white. Hashtag blue and white. Love blue and white. And I was like, I need to go make blue and white pumpkins. And so I literally, went to, this is all, what is this? I went to paper stores and literally went and got, they have those, you go and get, whatever the paper, those rolls of paper. I got it. I came home. I got out my, oh my gosh, I can't believe that glue stuff. And I just did it. And it just was like, so, it just was so fun. The type of thing I saw, and I was like, I need blue pumpkins. I don't know why, but I did, And I love patterns, like something about patterns. I love patterns. And so this really was so pleasing for me aesthetically because combined pumpkins, crafting. Oof.
Yes, and the staging of it too is just so satisfying. I think with the vase or whatever it's in, that is just. I might not be as much of a maker, but I love a good photo moment. I think this is fabulous.
No, thank you. I remember I asked my dad, because I took a bunch of different photos, and my dad has a pretty good eye for photography. So I remember asking my dad, which of these photos looks the best? Because you take a lot, and they're all slightly different. So I got his opinion on the winner. So I'll let him know.
Your dad, yes, tell him he did excellent chef's kiss work right here. And that final one on the top, it's just so fun.
And so this was inspired. So growing up, I have two sisters, and one of them is a 7-year difference. And so when she was growing up, or maybe it was Alexa, at one point there were felt dolls. Do you remember felt dolls? Basically, you'd have this green, I remember we had this green felt board, and you basically put these little felt dolls on it, they're just flat, and you just could put different clothes on them, and they just kind of hang out on this little green board. And it's just something, I don't know why, but dressing up with little felt dolls, it's almost like a paper doll, but in the 90s it was felt, so harder to rip. Yes. And they just were so fun. And so I don't know why, but I had this extra, felt or whatever. And I was like, I love champagne. I love Vouv. I think that also Vouvs are really fun, theme to play with. And so I don't know why, but I was like, I have to make a Vouv bottle out of sparkly material and felt. And so I have no idea where that one was completely random, but I made it. And I just very satisfied, and you're like, this is so fun.
Yes, It's so fun. It's so fun to look at. It makes me want to throw a dinner party or do something just like whimsical and joyful. And we need that. So those were so fun to look at.
Thank you.
I mean, like I can't believe it's Monday, right? I feel like I am on vacation now. We're just like ready
Oh my gosh. Oh
to
my
go
gosh.
have a
That's so
brunch,
kind.
right? It's brunch time, or oyster
Wonderful.
time or something. You've mentioned we've brought up Instagram a few different times in this conversation, but I wanted to know a little bit more pointedly of like what it means for your practice. Are you kind of like exclusively sharing your work there? I mean, I know you have a website too, but like, how does it all work together? What does that platform mean for you?
Yeah, no, another great question. I am basically exclusively on Pinterest. I remember I was working with a client and she's like, "Oh, like, what's your website?" And I'm like, "Nothing's actually up there. I just basically do everything on Instagram." So I do have a website now to maybe help facilitate. I've come to understand that it is important to like own your own brand, own your own clients. And so I think that I'm really focusing on just trying to get just a more robust email list. It's just like an easier way to be able to communicate with people about the things I like, things I'm sharing. But I've basically been on Instagram, and Instagram keeps changing, but I can only say good things about it because it's brought me to you. It's brought me this far. It's such like an amazing like free marketing tool. It's kind of crazy. So I'm an Instagram girl through and through.
Do you have any like tips for anyone of like, so I think, when you get in the right lane of Instagram, it is a beautiful place to be. And if you're in the wrong one or you're using it in a way that becomes overwhelming to you, like that can be really hard. Like, do you have certain practices? Do you like people's stuff you don't know and follow different accounts? Like, what is it like for you to build community maybe on that platform? Because I feel like you do that really well.
Oh my gosh, thank you. That means a lot to hear you say that. Well, let's see. So first of all, I like anyone like any like or comment like me, it sounds so trivial, but like means the world. And so I always like, I think it's, you know, you get what you put into it. And so like, anyways, the time, like I always comment back. I think that like commenting back, always like responding to your DMs, as long as they're not spam or creepy, because there are plenty of those people out there. So those are like two things. And then I think sometimes I'll go through spurts where it's like that's the difficult thing being like a one-man show as you are, is that like you only have so much time. You can't be creating and sharing and then expanding, all at the same time. And so I'll kind of go through spurts where like every few months, maybe I'll be like, okay, like now we're going to just try to like network with people and try to just like, like find new accounts. I go down some rabbit holes. I'll find some new accounts. I'll follow some new accounts. I'll just start like focusing more on like, just really being like very like posting less, but being like very active. And I think that when you're very active, I think that you get positive responses,
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a while, but yeah, that's kind of like, I feel like that's kind of what I've done. And yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I think that's so well said. And the way that I'm understanding what you're saying, which does resonate for me, is like, and it's taken time, right? Since, being in high school and having Instagram, is that it's not all about us, right? Like it is so much community is always going to be give and take. And so
Yes.
posting, selfies of myself all the time, every day, and not spending any time like celebrating all the cool stuff that's happening out there, it's a detriment to me on many accounts. And makes it more of like a weird silo that gets you in your head. And I think that that's beautiful. Like the thing you said that stood out to me most was that, it's not always about posting, but being active, right? Like just like any community, you want to be active in your community and celebrating the other people and learning from them. And I love commenting on Instagram stories. Like because it's like a private like dialogue. Again, as long as you're not like dealing with creepy motives or whatever, but like just being like, oh my gosh, I've been there. Like, isn't it so good? Or did you try the whatever? Like, it just automatically, you feel like someone's BFF, even though maybe they receive it as like, why are you commenting? But for me, it's like, I feel so connected to you now, like, because you went to this place that I've been trying to go to for 10 years. Like it's, it becomes really joyful. And then again, like connected. So
Yes, no, I agree. I had posted something the other day just because, I think we're less than 2 weeks out for our wedding. And I had said something about that on Instagram. I got like, just like all my stories. And then I had all of these people just like reach out and just like well wishes and like that. And I was like, all these people, I don't have my DMs aren't that crazy. But just like, it's just when someone just takes the time just to reach out and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you, or give you a little bit of advice, it just means the world. And that's the thing, is that Instagram, again, it like is what you put into it. And like if you look at it as like a negative tool, then it'll be a negative tool. Look at it as a positive space, it'll be a positive space. Like one of my friends on Instagram, I had done some custom work for her a few months ago. We like chat all the time, and we actually met up for like in person this past weekend, and it was amazing. Like, she literally is amazing. And you're like, you meet and like, I feel like, some people, yeah, sometimes be like, oh my gosh, that's weird, it's crazy, but like, no, like, you're really actually forming real connections. Like, if you choose to put the time into it, and it's just like it's the most exciting thing, you're like, oh
Yes.
like, we're friends, like, I feel like we're real friends now.
Oh my God. Yes. And I cannot wait for us to get to have that experience of the weekend catch up in person. It's going to be so special.
Yeah. So yeah.
I love that. And I hope other people like hear that and get to keep making this a wonderful place to be, and don't let it become something that's
No. And I think it's my only other piece, not only other, but a piece of advice is that if going to Instagram makes you feel like stressed out, take a break. Don't go on it. If certain accounts make you feel stressed out, don't look at them. Like, I started looking at things from like certain wedding things 3 days ago. I could feel my blood pressure rising. Like, Pierce,
yes.
we don't have, like, don't, just put it down. Don't scroll, just like knowing yourself well enough just to be like, because if you're stressed out, the last thing you need might be Instagram. And so just don't do it, and that's okay. It'll be there,
Yes. I think that's so wise and so necessary. And, a lot of what you have talked about, I think, is about giving yourself that freedom to lean into what you need to do in any given moment. And as we're kind of abstracting out to and wrapping up this beautiful experience, I want to know more about like why giving oneself the space and freedom to try, or the space and freedom to not be on Instagram for a moment, or to be creative, or whatever it is. Why does that matter? And what keeps inspiring and motivating you to show up in that really free way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that let's see. What I guess my perspective is that like life is so short. And so like life is so short. And we all were put here for a purpose. And just keep trying things until you find what really sticks, or what really inspires you. And if you, and just, I don't know, I just think it's just like life. Yeah, I guess that's my whole thing, is that life is so short. So just do it all. Like, I mean, I guess in a safe way, but here, I just like it. We have so many opportunities. We have so much, I don't know, there's so much to explore, to try. Like, our brains, there's so much parts, we don't use so many parts of our brains. I just think that, like, I don't know, there's just so much to try. And so for me, I like love like reading, learning, just like, trying to not make sure I get too siloed, I think that's something that I worry about. So that's kind of what keeps me going. It's just like, let's just keep, and I don't know, I think curiosity, and you can't force curiosity, but just staying curious.
Right. But you can fuel it, right? Like, if you see a little spark, you're like, let's make that get bigger.
No, exactly. That's exactly it. And I think that we talked about this before, but I think that, like, and maybe we're talking about it in a few minutes, but the fact of just like getting in touch, for me, like getting in touch with your inner child is like where the magic is for being like creative. I think that when you're like 4, 5, 6, all those things that you're gravitating towards, like, the cars, the dolls, whatever it is, like, those are the things that like later on in life, like, might potentially be your passions, and like when you're little, what you like, because like no one's telling you no. And you grow up, and then people kind of beat you down, and people tell you can't do those things. But if you look to like what you used to love when you're little, like, yeah, probably like ages like maybe 5 to 10, all those crazy little things, like that's like, I would dive in there and like see what sparks. And another kind of along those same lines, I was thinking about this because I really, I don't really talk about this like on my page, but I think that doing like inner child work and diving in deep is just, I think everyone's creative. Everyone is creative. I think most of us are like, most of our creativity has been banged out of us and just, you know, flattened, but we're all creative. Like, I don't care who you are, but there's something there. And I think if you want to do the work, you can find it. And I think that like, so there's some people who, remember every single meal they've ever had. And there are some people who like remember all different, like every single piece of art they've ever seen. And for me, like I can go in my closet and I can tell you where I bought the outfit, how much I bought it for, what year, you know? And so I think that even just kind of going back and seeing like what's fueled you and kind of, you know, spending some time and digging in, I think that's just such a great way just to get reconnected to like your little creative being, you know, because it's there, it just wants to be let out.
Yes, I love that encouragement. And I love the idea of inner child like work. I haven't heard it in that way before. And so you mentioned just now, like for you, it was like it seems like just like a thoughtfulness of like what has sparked you before, or what has your mind like gravitated toward. But is my understanding it right? Is there more to it than that? Like, how would you encourage someone to figure out what inner child work would be for them?
1000%. I would recommend reading The Artist's Way I wrote this down, by Julia Cameron.
So
The Artist's Way.
Oh.
It is just, I mean, she is the real genius. This book has been printed and reprinted, and she literally, you'll read it and she'll give you exercises on how to tap into the inner child. And she's the queen. I would literally read that book. Like read that, and you have to be in the right space. You have to be willing to do the work, because it is like a 3-month process, involves like journaling every day, and various like prompts. But like if you try it, like that is the best place to start, you know. And then not putting too much pressure on yourself. Like, you know, like if you start, like if you're just a baby creative, just like doing creative things, but don't tell anybody unless you want to. But like people, when you start becoming creative, people who are not creative or jealous of you being creative will try to push you down. So keep it to yourself until like you feel strong enough to like share it and be open to whatever comes your way, you know?
I love that. And I would say they should keep it to themselves, probably, except for to you. They should DM you and let them know that you're doing it, because you will be the opposite of that.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing. I would love to start a community of just like helping, you know, like baby art, like just baby creatives, because we all can help each other. So, you know, please like come talk to me. Yes. We'll hang out. We'll chat.
I love it. Maybe that's something that's going on the back burner now that we'll see happen for you. I'm excited to keep to stay tuned, because I think there is so much more that's going to continue to evolve with Love by Bug. So as we are, you know, finally, you know, wrapping up here, and it's been so much fun and such a privilege. What do you want people to leave knowing about you and your work, and what are you really looking forward to right now? And it doesn't have to be about your work, or it could be.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think one of my mottos is, why not live a big life? And I just think that there are so many opportunities like every day just to like live a little bit bigger and like a little more joyfully. And so just trying to bring that joy, trying to bring that ease, easier said than done. Just into every day, and however that is, you know what I mean? Like whatever that is, just trying just to do more of that. And then just like for me, I think we're just like getting married in like less than 2 weeks. And so going to Grace, like super excited. It's just going to be like the wedding of my dreams with the man of my dreams. I'm just very excited for that. And I think that like when I come back, who knows, but for now, it's just like, now we're going to a wedding zone, you know?
Oh my gosh, what a dream. I'm so happy to know you in this season and get to see all that joy kind of emanate from there, and it's so special to know your story and to get to celebrate this work. So Paris, thank you so much for being here. Everyone stay tuned, because there's so much more to come even.
No, thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. Like I said before, I feel so grateful, and you really are such like an amazing host, and like just like talking with you is like talking with a friend. So thank you, because this is not easy to do, and somehow it was so easy. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.